Well, thank you. So, the general rule of thumb is that sequels aren't as good, but these guys clearly are the exception to that rule. I think it's addition by subtraction because I wasn't in the film, but let me do some quick introductions here. I'll just go in order from Ironbound Films: Seth Kramer, Daniel Miller. From Israel Baseball, Nate Fish. I guess you're a filmmaker now too, right, technically. From Team Israel, Shlomo Lipitz. The man in the dugout for Team Israel and the guy who probably put the most money in the swear jar when they were in Tokyo, Eric Holtz. And, of course, from Ironbound Films, Jeremy Newberger. I'm Jonathan Mayo from MLB.com, and I'm very, very happy to be here. This is the second time that I've seen the film. Obviously, the first since the world changed very dramatically in October, and I just wanted to take a quick minute because I was a part of the first film, Heading Home, and I remember, and I live in Pittsburgh, and I remember having seen the film several times at screenings like this, and then seeing it for the first time after the shooting, A Tree of Life, and the film took on so much more meaning. And I don't know if you guys felt that as well. I'm sure you've all seen it several times. So I'll just throw this out to everybody. I'm going to jump right into the hard stuff. Just in terms of, obviously this is a very meaningful experience, both baseball and otherwise, and I can't imagine that it's not more exponentially more powerful because of the world we're living in. So if Shlomo, let me start with you as the native-born Israeli to sort of talk a little bit about looking at that experience through a slightly different lens.
Hi, and thank you for all being here. I talk a lot about it because as someone who came from Israel, I always felt a little alienated or didn't really connect really with American Jews. Just because when you're in Israel, you just live as a Jew, and as Israeli, you don't really see that distinction. But the more, and especially in the past 15 years, when I've got to play with a lot of American Jews, who really kind of share the story of how special it was for them to be playing on a team where everyone is Jewish. And you start hearing stories about guys who never played with another Jew on the team, never had another Jew in school, and you start kind of collecting that general identity, and you start having that, they understand, they relate to it more. So more than for me, I think for a lot of the players who were part of the Israeli national teams throughout the last 15 years, or since 2013 when we started really kind of incorporating Jewish players into the Israeli team, I think their understanding and their ability to explain to their friends and to their family about the complexity of the situation, I think it's probably the biggest thing for me. So again, I'm conflicted as an Israeli because of what's going on, and I hate seeing any deaths in any side, but I think it meant much more for the players who played on the team now than before.
Any of the filmmakers want to jump in on that, or should we can move on?
Yeah, I can take it.
Please.
It's funny, before October 7th, we were doing a story about what it was like for an ordinary American to represent Israel on the world stage, right? To walk around and have to defend Israel all the time. After October 7th, everybody's doing that, right? It's become, this is just like a parable for what's to come. So that what is most remarkable to me about watching these guys do that in such a way that now, something that we're all doing, in such a major way, whether it's, you're defending Israel against people who are attacking it, or you're amongst your right-wing Israeli friends and you're taking the left-wing side, or you're on your left-wing friends taking the, it's like how much of your thought now is just occupied by Israel versus what it was then. So that, I think, is the most remarkable thing. This was just merely a primer for what it would be like for all of us after October 7th.
Thank you guys for jumping right into that. I don't like to pull my punches. So, Nate, I wanted to ask you, because you kind of got because of the weird circumstances of this Olympic Games where there was no media, there were no filmmakers, when we made Heading Home, we were at the World Baseball Classic. You were kind of forced into cinematography duty, directing duty, while also, by the way, coaching third base. What was your first thought when you were asked to do this? I mean, did you turn to Jeremy and say you must be out of your mind? And then, how did you juggle all those things and come up with some extraordinary footage in the process?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we had our exhibition games around the Northeast, and I think it was the day before we left. Jeremy came up to me and said, "Hey, we can't come in the village with you guys. We're going to give you 6 cameras, pass them out to the guys, and send us the SD cards at the end." And I'm thinking, damn, this is a lot. Like, we're going to Tokyo. Like, we got to concentrate on winning these baseball games. Now we have to make a film. So went over there, did not remember anything that I shot or anything that any of us shot. Put the SD cards in an envelope, mailed them back to you. Didn't hear from you for like a year. Didn't even know if you got the SD cards. And got a text message one day that said, "You want to come to Atlanta for the premiere of the film?"
That totally tracks, by the way.
So thank you for the invite.
I'll just add that in the war room at Ironbound Films, we had like a map that said, all right, media savvy Nate Fish. We got Ty Kelly. He does comedy videos. Cody, no, not Cody. There was a bunch of media guys on the team, so we felt pretty comfortable that we'd get a film.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to choose one of the teams to have to, at the Olympics, to have to shoot their own, yeah, you picked the right team.
Speaking of that, Seth, let me give this to you. So this is now the second Team Israel baseball film. I know why you made the first one, because I made you. And that's partially true. But it's entirely true. I'm just curious why you guys decided to revisit this theme, this team, for a second time.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. So I'm the resident. I have no idea about baseball. I confuse it with football. Not anymore.
By now you know. Come on.
By now I'm an expert. Ask me anything. I would say after the first film, we weren't. I don't want to speak necessarily. Yeah, I do for my co-directors, but I don't think we were like racing to make a sequel. And that sounds negative, but it's not meant to be. I mean, it was. We loved the original film. We were so excited about the reception that the public gave it. It couldn't have been better. But time passed, and then we were told by the team that they were going to try to qualify for the Olympics. The American players were going to go to Israel to get their citizenship. And we still didn't necessarily want to make a sequel, but we felt like we had to film it. You know, we just had to document it. It was like being called by a higher, by a higher power. And I think, the chances of making the film were pretty low because we figured that they wouldn't qualify. God damn it. Team Israel strikes again. We for a time we kept filming just because they kept going and going and going. We had a tremendous amount of faith in this team because every time you turn the camera on them, or in this case they turn the camera on themselves, they do something incredible or hilarious or heartbreaking or heroic, and that's the stuff of great movies. And they are such an amazing lens, I think, through which to look at the Jewish American experience and this really kind of strange relationship that we have with Israel. So,
yes, someday I think we'll all look back at this arc of films, and it's always going to be, well, Team Israel exceeded expectations. We better film it,
right?
Again and again and again. Eric, you've been around the game a long time, and it's not often that there's a strong storyline of this sort of camaraderie with another team and an opponent. And it's interesting. I was just at an MLB event last week, and I ran into Nelson Cruz, who is the general manager of the Dominican Republic. He went to the Dominican in 2022 with a couple of prospects and did some clinics. He's told me he's going back next month. So there's this interesting bond that you see in the film start to come out with Jose Bautista. I recognize Julio Rodriguez, who's now one of the biggest stars of Major League Baseball there. What was that like for you as the sort of hardened baseball guy who clearly wears your heart on your sleeve, but to see this other team, one of the powers in all of baseball, to kind of embrace Team Israel and that building relationship.
First off, does anyone else think that Mayo and I might have been separated at birth?
Please take this photo. And done.
Before I answer that question, I'd be remiss by not commenting on the first question asked to Shlo, and then I'll get to that real quick. For me, in this time, one of the negative things about me, and my youngest son is here, who's a very deep-thinking kid, he talks to me about reflecting in his life. And one of the things about me is I never reflect because I feel like I don't have time. I got to get to the next thing and what's on my docket for tomorrow. And after October 7th, this became even more meaningful for me. I am not a religious person. I am the proudest Jew that you will ever meet, and I think that has grown since. Our goal was to have little kids in Israel emulate these guys. And I got to tell you, I am prouder than ever of people like Ari Ackerman sitting out there, who is loud and proud of being Jewish. And so I just wanted to jump in there. As far as the Dominican Republic, this was the weirdest thing. So it was the best of times and the worst of times. The worst of times because we are with phenomenal athletes from all over the world, and you can't even talk to them, right? You can't socialize with them, you can't talk to them. And you add that with, again, I mentioned in the film, we were looked at as the Jamaican bobsled team of baseball, okay? We earned the respect of the Dominican Republic on the field that day in one game, to where masks came off, handshakes turned into hugs, and from that day, I think there was just, and I think it will maintain for a long time, Jonathan. I think, the respect and the love for each other and how we left it out on the field will always kind of represent where Israel was on the baseball field.
Not to get too metaphorical, but I think it was more than just the surgical masks that came off because of how you guys played on the field. And one of the things that I've loved so much about the first film and the second film, and sort of sports in general, is how bridges can be surpassed and reaching out can happen just because you competed well in an Olympic Games. Daniel, I know whenever I've watched a baseball film or any sports film, the thing I always think is missing is footage of Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. I mean, throughout Hoop Dreams, A League of Their Own, I'm like, I need to hear. Obviously, you found footage that was so poignant and so relevant. Take us a little bit sort of into the director's chair, so to speak, and how, one, you decided, yes, this makes sense, and how you decided which, what I'm sure was tons and tons of interviews with Rabbi Sachs that made sense for this film.
Well, I think different than the films you describe. This is a rare sports movie about a team that went 1-4. So, what do we do when we experience grief, when we experience something that we don't understand, when we experience a phenomenon that doesn't make sense to us, that is, we turn to a rabbi, right? And part of it, too, is like sort of the Team Israel's experience, as Seth said, kind of reflects the Jewish experience. How do we keep going through these kind of tragedies in Jewish history? Well, how do we make sense of them? What value do we get out of suffering, out of loss? And how do we make sense of it? So we thought, why not consult, one of the greatest Jewish thinkers of our generation, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, put him in this Israel baseball movie and see what happens. And he sort of anchors you and guides you through, I think, about what, even though these guys went there and they didn't win as much as we hoped, what is the value of that and what can we sort of get out of that, And I think that's why he's in.
Yeah, and I think with that in mind, one of the the themes, and Shlomo, I'll throw this back to you, is, and not just for this film, but maybe for the Jewish people, is this concept of falling down and picking yourself back up, which again, much more relevant now than maybe it's ever been. You've been part of this Israel baseball ride forever. And I'm just wondering for you, like, when you see that reflected in this film, this idea that you just keep going. I mean, how powerful was that for you?
I mean, it was very powerful, and it's really just a change of mentality and a change of thinking. And we always, I've been playing baseball for Team Israel since I was 10 years old, and it was always like, I'm just happy to be a part of it. We're the underdog. We have no really chance to win and to compete. For me, it was kind of like an annual trip with the same guys, and with aspiration to become this kind of better team and a better player. And slowly, as we start kind of integrating and soaking in this mentality of winning, I'll never forget the conversation when I had with Danny Valencia, one of the biggest winners, at least in his head. He could, you see a guy who played for the University of Miami and kind of always was challenged, physically compared to some of the other players, but always believed in winning. And he gave me a lot of grief for saying, hey, we're just happy to be here. It's like, no, fuck that. We're going to win it. And you see, we kind of lose to it one time during the movie, but starting to believe really started kind of trickling down to the team, to the rest of the players. And I could say flat, really with full assertion that we do not go onto any field, play against any team, not thinking that we could genuinely win the game. And that is a big change, and I think that has the longest lasting impact on the Israeli baseball program. And I think that people talk, they're not happy to be there. They have someone to look up to. We set a very high bar, playing almost qualifying to the World Baseball Classic in 2013, and of course having that run in 17 and playing some great games and a couple of years ago in the World Baseball Classic, and of course the Olympics. And that change of mentality is going to stick with us and with the program forever. Especially a team from Israel, Jews are not really considered the top athletes of the world, and that really talks to that kind of shared identity and shared vision that we all have.
Believe it or not, Ironbound Films doesn't just make movies about Team Israel, as much as we would like that. So, Jeremy, I'm curious, what's next?
Well, thanks for asking, Jonathan.
That wasn't a stage question at all.
Well, we've done two really solid films about the relationship between American Jewry and Israel, and I think we have another one that we're planning and started shooting that I think gets the essence of that relationship. And it's about this kid from Brooklyn who was a boxer. He went to West Point, rose to the rank of colonel. His name was Mickey Marcus. How many of you know who that is? Just raise your hand. All right, so some, not all. Maybe you were alive in the 1960s when they made a film called Cast a Giant Shadow about Mickey Marcus. It's got like the biggest Hollywood cast you've ever heard. John Wayne, Frank Sinatra, Yul Brynner, Topol, and Kirk Douglas playing Mickey Marcus. But maybe the rest of us are like, who? This guy rose to the rank of colonel in almost Zelig-like career. Created the surrender papers for Japan. Parachuted in on D-Day. Was responsible for putting together the Newberger legal team that prosecuted the Nazis. Just a remarkable career in America as a colonel, and then gets drafted by David Ben-Gurion in 1948 to come help Israel, or Palestine at the time, become Israel and win the War of Independence. It's a remarkable story. It's got a lot of layers, and we are happy to announce that we started filming on May 5th at West Point, where they have an annual ceremony in his name, and we started filming there in May, and we're making this film. So I think it's best summed up by David Ben-Gurion, who said that Mickey Marcus is an enduring symbol of the relationship between American Jews and Israel, and how badly do we need a film like that right now? So talk to me after if you're interested in funding it. But yeah, that's what's next.
All right, so from that scripted question, I think we will take some unscripted questions if people have them. We have some people with
Hey,
mics.
Jonathan, before you go, could you like call out? There are some other Team Israel Olympic athletes in the audience.
I don't know who's here, so you'll
Please
have to do that.
stand up if you're an Olympic athlete.
We have outfielder Rob Power.
How cool is that?
We have the first Israeli-born player to sign a professional contract and play in New York for the New York Boulders, Asaf Lowengar.
Am I wrong that he just made his debut like this weekend and nailed a home run?
Asaf literally got here Tuesday. I picked him up at his hotel, dropped him off because he wasn't sure where to go, and then 2 days later hits a home run. His first home at bat was a home run.
Wow.
Don't forget about national team player Brett Holtz.
Also known as, yeah.
Holtzy number 2, the next generation.
Well, is there anybody else that we forgot? All right, sorry, back to you, John.
No, it's okay. Raise your hand if you have questions. We're going to go up there. You're going to get your steps in.
So in the 2020 Olympic team, who would you say amongst the team was the biggest mensch on the bench?
Shlomo Lipitz.
All right, Shlomo, you need to come up with a different answer. You're going to vote for yourself? That's fine.
We're all menches.
There you go. All right, let's go right here.
Hey, I'm Jordan Berman. I'm with Stars of the Tribe, and we're celebrating Jewish sports icons that smash stereotypes. So hats off to all you guys, proud Jews, tough Jews. This means so much, and I'm a dad, so I can't wait to come home back to Princeton, New Jersey, and tell my teen sons I met some badass Jews. So that's the first thing. So awesome work. You know, I think we're in like a little bit of a golden age in terms of Jews playing baseball. So let me ask you, like, guys like Alex Bregman or Max Fried or Jock Peterson or Harrison Bader, like, when you see those guys, you're like, hey, you should join our side.
Yeah, Mayo, you should probably actually take this.
A lot of those guys you ticked off played on the World Baseball Classic team. You know, the one thing to differentiate, and they mentioned it in the film, is to play an international competition like the Olympics, you need to become an Israeli citizen, and that's a whole nother hoop to jump through. Jock played in the last World Baseball Classic team. I have a feeling you're going to see some of those guys playing the next World Baseball Classic team if the rallying around Israel that we've seen from the sort of Jewish baseball community is for real, and I have reason to believe, you know, why wouldn't it be, that I think you're going to see some more of those guys, especially as they get, you know, Alex Bregman's getting to a point in his career where Team USA may not be the number one option, but he'd be a perfect option for Team Israel in the next World Baseball Classic. And then there are a bunch of guys in the minor leagues coming through too that we'll have to keep an eye on. Is Elliot Steinmetz here?
Yeah, he's right here.
Oh, he is right there. So Elliot's son Jacob is playing in the Arizona Diamondback system. You may remember he pitched in the last World Baseball Classic, and I assume he will be the ace of the staff and potentially a big leaguer by the time that next World Baseball Classic comes around.
And the star of Heading Home 3.
Yes. We'll talk about that afterwards. All right. We're going to go up there, but just shout out your questions, so we're not going to make you run up with the mic.
Hi. So what it is accessibility.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Following the ADA.
Well, actually, before I do my question, I want to say congrats on beating Mexico because they're like a top 10 team in the world. So it wasn't. I mean, it's a great victory, I thought. But anyway, the question is, what is the current status of baseball in Israel, and what can we do to support that, to support its growth?
Great question. I think we should get Jordy up here, a quick special guest. He's the president of the Israel Association of Baseball. But before we do that, Jordy, come up here. But before we do that, 6 months ago, we launched Israel Baseball Americas and a partnership between the IAB, that Jordy is the president of, and the new organization in the States. So we're really bringing Israel baseball to the North American Jewish community in a whole new way. So lots of material in the lobby about how you can support that, QR codes, take your pictures, post and tag us, and go to the website and buy the merch and all that stuff, and just learn more and really be ambassadors for Israel baseball. I think that's the best thing that everyone in this room can do. But I think specifically, Jordy, you can update us about baseball in Israel.
Sure. It's great to see everybody tonight. Thanks for coming out. It was a great turnout. Thank you so much. A lot going on in Israel. We have I have to sit? Yeah. All right.
You don't have to. All right. Take my spot.
Nice, Shlomo. A lot going on in Israel in a positive way for baseball. We just opened up a new facility in Ra'anana about 2 years ago. So we're using that exclusively for baseball. We have a facility that we're building currently in Beit Shemesh, which will be actually in the complex for baseball in Israel once we get that going. A little complicated building in Israel at any time, but certainly now it's even more complicated. So we're facing some challenges with that as well. But through all this, since October 7th, everything that's gone on, and we lost 30-40% of our coaches had to go into reserve duty. A lot of the parent coaches reserve duty. So our league sort of fell apart for a few months. But once they returned, we returned. And we have 4 teams traveling to Europe this summer. We have teams going to Poland, to Lithuania, to Germany, and to Switzerland. And those are all Israeli kids. So the future is bright in Israel. The relationship with the new organization that Nate and Adam Gladstone involved in building the Israel Baseball Americas is going to be a huge help for us, both financially and more importantly, professionally. You know, we're getting our athletes, many of the athletes that you saw on the screen today are now involved on a regular basis with our athletes in Israel. Helping them, helping our coaches, and really giving them a different level that we've never faced, that you didn't face when you were 10 years old in Israel. So,
I mean, I say it all the time. One of the most important things is when you're a kid is having a role model. And I didn't have a role model playing baseball in Israel. You know, they barely showed one game a month on the Lebanese channel. There was no one who I wanted to be exactly. There's no one who I wanted to wear their batting gloves or swing a certain way. And for the first time, there's a now full, layer of kids in Israel that have Israeli and Jewish role models. And I think that is a huge factor. Kids like Asaf, who saw, players like myself and folks like Dan and some other players who went to college, had that journey, paved the way for the next generation to be able to play. So it's been huge. It's been amazing for me to see. We were supposed to host next year the European Championships. Obviously, the circumstances have changed a little bit. But
surprised nobody wants to come to Israel.
But Jordy has done a great job, and again, there right now, I think 6 or 7 Israeli players are playing in summer leagues
in Florida, yeah.
and that's because of some of the foundations that we all helped establish.
We want to take 1 or 2 more. Let's go back up there.
While you're waiting, Matt, didn't your son hit the first home run at the Ra'anana field? This guy right here hit the first home run at the Ra'anana field. That's something.
Hi, my name is Josh, and I have 2 questions. One for you. Do you know when that film was in the 60s about Mickey Marcus?
1966, sir.
Thank you. And the next question is, do you know when or if there's a minor league team that will be here in, I believe you said in the film, the States?
What was the question?
Minor league team are you talking about a film about a minor league team, or in the States a minor league team that will be here?
I think it was said in the film, I think there was a minor league team here in the States. I don't know if that's true or not.
I'm not sure what you mean, sir.
We have our guys are sort of sprinkled all over throughout at different levels of professional baseball.
Okay, I listened.
So we don't have a team that's represented within professional baseball. We come together for training camps and tournaments and other events.
All right, I'm going to let Zach Rapp have the last word. He's up there.
star of Heading Home 1.
This one, I think, is for you, Coach. What do you think makes baseball such a special, unique tool to bridge Jews, Israel, youth, adults? Shlomo mentioned role models. I remember a conversation with a kid who messaged me on Instagram during the World Baseball Classic in 2017, after the World Baseball Classic, and he saw one of the Team Israel players celebrating, had a Christmas tree with his Team Israel jersey hanging in the background on his wall. And he said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I said, the fact that he played for Team Israel gave him that spark to keep him remaining connected to his Judaism, to his roots, to Israel. So I'm just curious what you think about baseball being that connecting point for so many people.
Z, that's such a crazy question because I could talk about that for an hour.
You could talk about anything for an hour.
I mean, when you hear people talk about baseball as life, right? Baseball is a journey where things don't always go well. We have to learn from our mistakes. We have to overcome adversity like every day. I get punched in the face 8 times. I'm going to get up in 9th. When things are easy, life is fun. When things aren't so easy and things don't go so well is when I have to look in the mirror and reflect on what do I need to work on. I think I have an idea who you're talking about. You can't not be attracted to an underdog. I think everybody loves the underdog story. When you add the underdog to persecution, to, back from, our people building the pyramids, and here we are defying every odd. Everyone laughed at us, right? When we said we were going to try to qualify for the Olympics, people looked at us like, what are you even doing here? Other than the host country of Japan, we were the first country in the world to qualify for the Olympics. I mean, that's like incredible from where we come. So how do you not fall in love with a story like that? And I don't care where you come from and what your background is. Here's my thing about Israel. And Mayo, I promise I'm done after this. I don't care who you are and what you believe in. I am not religious. I do not observe. I am incredibly spiritual. For me, to be in the most magical place on the planet, which I am telling you is Israel, I walked where Moses walked. I walked where Jesus walked. I got chills every time I go back to, I'm born and raised here, but that's my home. Right, Jordy? Isn't that my home? For me, there's no more special place. So you add that and baseball together, that's what sold me on becoming involved with Israel baseball in 2017.
See, I'll just add one more thing. Holtzy, it's not going to be nearly as eloquent or emotional as that. But for many people, myself included, and you and most people in this room, baseball and Judaism are the two most primary parts of our lives, and Israel baseball is the place where those things intersect and where we can be Jewish and baseball fans in the same space. Besides that, you're either sort of a baseball player or you're Jewish. You're either at the park or you're at synagogue. In Israel, in the clubhouse with us, you can be both at the same time. So that's good. Yeah.
I think you sold yourself short. That wasn't less eloquent. I think that's a great way to end. But here's the thing. I mean, we could keep talking about this for hours. We're not going anywhere. There's a reception upstairs. Come join us for some wine and beer. Shameless plug. I have a copy of my book, which has nothing to do with Jews and baseball, but is about baseball. Happy to sell some of those and sign some of those. But Jeremy, you had one more
I just wanted to throw one last thank you out. Our fourth Ironbound member, Graham Wright, is here. Where are you, Graham? It's like the fourth Beatle. And none of these films get made without Graham. And also, none of these films get made without our families and our wives, and some of our kids are here. Please stand up. We make these films because we love you. Yeah.
Mom and Dad,
Thank
stand
you.
up.
Now that's it. Let's go drink some wine.
All right, let's go have some drinks. Thanks, everybody.